I never thought a last-minute travel app would lead me to the strangest experience of my life. It was a Tuesday evening when I found myself stranded in an unfamiliar city, desperately searching for affordable accommodation. That's when I stumbled upon this new app, promising unbeatable deals on short-notice rentals. The interface was sleek, the reviews seemed positive, and the prices were too good to pass up. Without much thought, I booked a room in what appeared to be a quaint, older building near the city center. As I approached the address the next day, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The brick facade was weathered but well maintained, and a small brass plaque beside the entrance confirmed I was in the right place. The lobby was modestly furnished with a few potted plants and a worn leather couch. An elderly man at the front desk barely looked up from his newspaper as he handed me a key card, mumbling something about being on the 4th floor. The elevator creaked and groaned as it carried me upwards, but again, nothing particularly alarming for an older building. My room was at the end of a long hallway, the carpet a faded floral pattern that had seen better days. Inside, the accommodations were basic but clean. A double bed with crisp white sheets, a small desk by the window, and a bathroom with slightly outdated fixtures. The view from the window showed a typical urban landscape. Neighboring buildings, a slice of sky between them, and the distant hum of traffic below. I spent the remainder of the day exploring the city, returning to my room well after dark. Exhausted from walking, I fell into a deep sleep almost immediately. It wasn't until I woke up in the middle of the night that I first noticed something was wrong. The room was pitch black, darker than any hotel room I'd ever been in. Fumbling for my phone to check the time, I saw it was 2:17 a.m. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, a chill ran down my spine. The window that had been there when I fell asleep was gone. In its place was just a blank wall. Confused and slightly panicked, I stumbled out of bed and felt my way to where I remembered the light switch being. Flicking it on, I blinked in the sudden brightness, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. The room had changed. The wallpaper, once a neutral beige, was now a deep crimson with an intricate, almost dizzying pattern. The desk had vanished, replaced by an antique vanity with a tarnished mirror, but most unsettling of all was the complete absence of any windows. Heart racing, I grabbed the key card and rushed to the door, convinced I must have somehow entered the wrong room. But when I stepped into the hallway, I froze. The long corridor I had walked down earlier was gone. Instead, I found myself in a circular room with 5 identical doors, none of which seemed to lead to an exit. Panic rising in my throat, I tried each door, finding more bizarrely altered rooms behind them. One was entirely empty, save for a single chair facing the corner. Another was filled floor to ceiling with old televisions, their screens flickering with static. In the third, the floor seemed to slope at an impossible angle, defying the laws of physics. I retreated to my original room, slamming the door shut behind me. My phone showed no signal, and when I tried to use the room's landline, I heard only a low, pulsing tone that made my skin crawl. As I paced the room, trying to make sense of what was happening, I noticed something that sent a fresh wave of terror through me. The photos on the wall, which I had barely registered earlier, now showed distorted images of people. Their faces were scratched out, leaving only haunting, empty ovals where features should have been. Throughout the night, I heard whispers emanating from behind the walls. They were too faint to make out words, but the tone was unmistakably menacing. I huddled on the bed, wide-eyed and trembling, waiting for dawn to come and praying that with it some semblance of normality would return. As the first grey light of morning seeped under the door, I cautiously ventured out again. To my immense relief, the hallway had returned to its original state. I practically ran to the elevator, desperate to get out of the building and never return. But my relief was short-lived. When the elevator doors opened, I found myself not in the lobby, but in another residential floor, identical to the one I had just left. Frantic now, I took the stairs, descending flight after flight, only to emerge on seemingly endless identical floors. No matter how far down I went, I never reached the ground level. Days passed like this. Each night, the rooms and hallways would shift and change, becoming more twisted and nightmarish. During the day, everything appeared normal, but I remained trapped, unable to find an exit. I never saw another guest, only those unsettling photos with scratched-out faces watching me from every wall. Food would appear in my room while I slept, but I never saw who delivered it. I lost track of time, my phone eventually dying with no way to charge it. The whispers behind the walls grew louder, more insistent, though I still couldn't decipher their words. In a moment of desperation, I tried to use my phone one last time, hoping against hope that I could somehow contact the outside world. As I navigated to the app I had used to book the room, my blood ran cold. The app wasn't there. Frantically searching online, I found news articles about a travel app that had been shut down a decade ago after multiple users had gone missing. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I hadn't just booked a room in a strange hotel. I had somehow stepped into a place that existed outside of normal reality, a place that had been trapping people for years. Now, as I write this, I don't know how long I've been here. The room changes nightly, sometimes shrinking until I can barely breathe, other times expanding into cavernous, echoing spaces filled with shadows that move when I'm not looking directly at them. The whispers have become a constant backdrop, and sometimes I catch myself whispering back, though I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know if I'll ever find a way out of this place. But if you're reading this, please be careful what you book online. Some deals are too good to be true, and some places, once you check in, never let you leave. The walls are changing again. The whispers are getting louder, and I'm starting to forget what the world outside was like. If you're out there, if anyone is listening, please find me before I disappear completely, like all the others who came before me. I never thought a simple hike would lead me down a path of paranoia and fear. It was a crisp autumn morning when I decided to explore the dense forest near my home. The leaves crunched beneath my feet as I ventured deeper into the woods, the sunlight filtering through the canopy above. That's when I heard it. A faint ringing sound barely audible over the rustling of leaves in the breeze. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but as I moved closer, the sound grew louder. There, nestled in a bed of fallen leaves, was a smartphone. Its screen was cracked, but it was still functioning, the caller ID displaying an unknown number. Curiosity got the better of me, and I answered the call. "Hello?" I said hesitantly. The voice that responded sent chills down my spine. It was a woman, her words rushed and frantic. "Please help me. I've been missing for 3 days. I don't know where I am. They took me and I..." The call cut off abruptly, leaving me standing there in stunned silence. My mind raced with possibilities. Was this some kind of prank, or was there really a woman out there in danger? I pocketed the phone and hurried back to my car, driving straight to the local police station. The officer at the desk listened to my story with a skeptical expression. He took down my information and the details of the call, but seemed unconvinced. "Look, sir," he said, leaning back in his chair, "we get a lot of false alarms and pranks. We'll look into it, but I wouldn't worry too much. It's probably just some kids messing around." I left the station feeling uneasy. That night, as I tried to sleep, the woman's desperate voice echoed in my head. I tossed and turned, unable to shake the feeling that I should have done more. Just as I was about to drift off, the phone I had found buzzed on my nightstand. My heart raced as I answered it. "Hello," I whispered. "It's me again," the woman's voice came through, quieter this time. "Please, you have to help me. Don't trust the man in uniform. He's one of them. They're everywhere, watching, waiting. You're the only one who can help me now." Before I could respond, the line went dead. I sat up in bed, my palms sweaty and my mind reeling. What did she mean by the man in uniform? Was she talking about the police officer I had spoken to earlier? And who were they? I barely slept that night, my eyes constantly darting to the shadows in my room, imagining figures lurking in the darkness. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I couldn't focus on anything but the mysterious phone and its haunting messages. As the day wore on, I found myself constantly checking the phone, waiting for it to ring again. And it did, multiple times. Each call brought more disturbing details. The woman spoke of people watching me, following my every move. She described my house, my car, even the clothes I was wearing. "They're closing in," she whispered during one call. "You need to be careful. They know you have the phone now. They'll come for you too." I began to notice things. A car that seemed to be parked outside my house for too long. A figure I glimpsed in my peripheral vision while getting the mail. Was I really being watched, or was my mind playing tricks on me? I tried to go about my daily routine, but everything felt off. The grocery store clerk's friendly smile seemed forced and sinister. The jogger who passed me on the street looked back one too many times. Even my neighbors, who I'd known for years, suddenly felt like strangers with hidden agendas. Days passed, and the calls continued. Sometimes they were brief, just a few panicked words before cutting out. Other times, the woman would speak for minutes, revealing more about her captors and their supposed plans. But she never gave me any concrete information I could use to help her or myself. I stopped going to work. I covered my windows with blankets and kept all the lights off. I jumped at every sound, convinced that they were coming for me. The only connection I had to the outside world was through that mysterious phone. One night, after a particularly unsettling call where the woman claimed she could see me through my own windows, I decided I needed answers. With shaking hands, I navigated to the phone's settings, looking for any clue about its owner. What I found made my blood run cold. The phone number wasn't registered to some missing woman. It was registered to me. My name, my address, everything matched. I dropped the phone as if it had burned me. How was this possible? I had never seen this phone before that day in the woods. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. Was I losing my grip on reality? Had I imagined the whole thing? Just then, a knock at the door made me jump. Through the peephole, I saw a police officer standing on my porch. "Sir, we've had reports of suspicious activity at this address. Can you open the door?" My heart pounded in my chest as the woman's words echoed in my mind. "Do not trust the man in uniform." I backed away from the door, my breathing shallow and quick. The knocking became more insistent. "Sir, I need you to open this door now." I looked at the phone on the floor, then back at the door. Was this the moment they had finally come for me? Or was I about to make the biggest mistake of my life by not trusting the authorities? As I stood there, paralyzed with indecision, the phone began to ring once more. I stared at it, torn between answering and opening the door. The knocking grew louder, more urgent. The ringing seemed to fill the room, drowning out everything else. In that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. But no matter what I chose, I knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The mystery of the phone in the woods had consumed my life, leaving me questioning everything and everyone around me. As I reached for the phone, my hand trembling, I couldn't help but wonder, was I about to uncover the truth, or had I already fallen too deep into a web of paranoia and delusion? The answer, I feared, might be more terrifying than anything I could imagine. I never thought I'd be afraid of the woman I love. But as I sit here in the darkness of our bedroom, my heart racing, I can't help but feel a creeping dread wash over me. It started innocently enough. Sarah began sleepwalking a few weeks ago. At first, it was just wandering to the kitchen or standing in the hallway. Nothing too concerning. But then I noticed a pattern. Every night, like clockwork, she'd rise from our bed around 3 a.m. Her eyes would be open, but vacant. She'd drift through our house like a ghost, whispering to herself in a voice so low I could barely make out the words. When I'd gently guide her back to bed, she'd have no recollection of it in the morning. I tried to convince myself it was just stress or a new medication, but deep down I knew something wasn't right. The way she moved, the eerie calmness on her face. It was as if she was being guided by an unseen force. Last night, I decided to set up a camera in our living room. I told myself it was to monitor her safety, but truthfully, I needed answers. As I reviewed the footage this morning, my blood ran cold. There she was, standing in the corner of the room, having what appeared to be a one-sided conversation. But the corner was empty. I watched in horror as she nodded, laughed, and even reached out as if to touch someone. But there was no one there, at least no one I could see. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I realized this wasn't just sleepwalking. This was something far more sinister. Tonight, I'm determined to follow her. As she rises from our bed, I silently trail behind. She makes her way to that same corner of the living room, the floorboards creaking beneath her feet. I watch as she kneels down, running her fingers along the edge of an old, discolored section of wood. My curiosity gets the better of me. When Sarah finally returns to bed, I investigate the spot. The floorboards are slightly charred, as if from an old fire. With trembling hands, I pry them up, revealing a small cavity beneath. Inside, I find a weathered leather-bound book, a diary. The pages are filled with frantic scribbles, detailing a man's descent into madness. He writes of voices in the walls, of a presence that tormented him nightly. The final entry sends chills down my spine. It won't let me leave. God help whoever comes after me. I spend the next day in a fog, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. As night falls, I lie awake, waiting. Sarah rises, but this time she doesn't leave the room. She stands at the foot of our bed, her eyes fixed on me. In a voice that's not quite her own, she speaks. "He said you're next."